What is going on, YouTube, and welcome to episode 1 of Scrims for Dummies. In this video, I'm going to break down how to pick a drop spot that fits your playstyle and plan a loot path around it to give yourself the best chance of making it to endgame and acquiring enough loot to get that victory royale. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Before you can even begin picking a drop spot, you're going to have to join some Scrim servers. I made a video on this about a week ago, so I'll put a link to that video right here if you need it. Okay. So now you want to pick a drop spot. You're going to have to ask yourself a few questions to determine what kind of player you are and decide what drop spots will be best for your playstyle. Are you an aggressive player and like to take some risk to land at a contested POI and get some kills off spawn? Are you really good with a specific weapon such as heavy snipers? Are you comfortable fighting off spawn every game? Are you really good with a specific mythic gun and want to go after it every game? Do you like to abuse the flopper meta in endgames? Do you mind having to rely on mobility to get to zone most of the time? Or are you a passive player and would rather be uncontested most of the time? All of these factors should help you determine what kind of POI or landmark you want to land at. Let's weigh out the pros and cons of landing at a contested POI. Some of the pros are that there's more possible loot, you have a higher chance of getting kills off spawn, and you have an easy way of getting some storm surge damage if your games are stacked. Some of the cons is that there's a much higher chance of you dying off spawn, as most people who do land at contested POIs tend to be more aggressive. Also, there's a chance of players rotating into your POI while you're fighting and third partying. Note that even if you do land at a major POI, you do not have to kill everyone there. If you don't like your loot and feel as if you can't win your off spawn fight, you could simply loot one side or corner and try to disengage and rotate out. Try not to force yourself into positions where you will be at a disadvantage. Now, let's weigh out the pros and cons of landing in an edge map or less contested POI. Some of the pros are that you have a much higher chance of survival. There is less chance that you can get third partied, especially because you have a much better idea of where your opponents will be. You will also have more time to loot, farm, and fish because you won't have to worry about fighting off spawn as much. Some of the cons are that edge map locations are almost always far from zone, so you may have to rely on boats, porta potties, or ziplines to rotate. There's also less chance for you to get god tier loot, and harder to get storm surge damage as opponents will be fairly far from you. Lastly, it is almost impossible to disengage if someone lands with you at a smaller POI. Also, I recently made 2 videos on some of the most underrated solo drop spots. I'll put links to those videos right here. By now you should have an idea of what kind of player you are and the type of location you would like to land. One resource that I like to use and a lot of pros use is a website called lootlake.info. On this website, you can see where every chest, floor loot spawn, ammo crate spawn, or tunnels will take you, and even where fishing holes could be. I recommend using this resource to pick a spot and begin planning your loot path. It is also important to note that if you are a relatively passive player off spawn like myself, be careful about picking a spot near a major POI or mythic POIs, as players that rotate out of these locations usually have a few kills already, have very powerful loadouts, and tend to be more aggressive. Let's take Lake Canoe for example. Just looking at it here, it seems like a great solo spot. Decent amount of chest, floor loot, and fishing, but it is right outside the wind tunnel that players from the grotto tend to rotate out of. Fighting players that just got to feast on a vault at a mythic POI right away already puts you at a major disadvantage. I would tend to try to avoid these spots or at least be conscious about it. Now on to planning your loot path. Your loot path is just as important, if not more important, than your drop spot itself. There are a few goals you want to achieve when designing your loot path. 1. Get the most loot or chest in the most efficiently or fastest way possible to give yourself the instant advantage if you are contested. 2. Make a path that should max out or be close to max mats of every material. 3. Try to make a path that goes only in one direction. Going back and forth will just waste time that could be spent rotating, fishing, or farming. When planning your path, I like to go in playground or pubs and learn where every chest spawn, floor loot spawn, and even ammo crate spawns will be. While you are doing this, practice landing at your spot over and over from all different bus angles and distances. I find it helpful to mark my destination to learn what distance to pull my glider is most effective. Here, I will show you an example of how I make a loot path. Let's use Hydro 16, a decent solo spot with a few chests, great metal source, and an upgrade table. As you can see, there are 3 chests all within 2 blocks of each other, so of course I'm going to go for these immediately. After grabbing all the chests, I then grab the rest of the floor loot in the building and grab the last chest up top. After I've looted the building, I like to farm the cars and some brick on the outside, and then move to the side building with another chest and an upgrade table that I can use if I feel I need it. Then, depending on where I saw people land and the amount of shield I got, I can either use the zip line or run up the side of the mountain to try to do some fishing, or rotate towards Slurpee and peek and see if the slurp truck has gotten used. After I've gotten fish and max shield, I then begin rotating towards zone while farming to max out my mats. Well folks, that is my mindset when I pick a drop spot and plan a loot path. If you found this video helpful in any way, consider giving this video a like and subscribe so you don't miss episode 2 on Thursday. I'll cover what to do if you are contested. I will break down how to approach off spawn fights to give yourself the best chance to get that initial kill or two. Also, if you want to support me even more, you could use code Milano when buying skins in the item shop. Shout out to all these people using my code. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget, if you want to shout out my next video, simply send me a pic of you using my code on Twitter or Instagram, and I'll add you to the list. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.